Tonight's class, Be'ezat Hashem, is a very, very special class. It's a class that's needed for many of us. And when I say many of us, because although the main concept we all know, but the full details maybe we don't know. And tonight's class is a class about Gematriot. Gematriot is a famous word that we hear all the time, and simply we know that it means the numbers and the equation of the numbers in Hebrew. But Be'ezat Hashem, tonight hopefully we hope to discuss the subject in full and get at least a clear picture of what the concept of Gematria is. So on the agenda, Be'ezat Hashem, first we'll speak about Gematriot, and then we'll speak, Be'ezat Hashem, of how they apply and how they work. And then finally we'll speak about the different ways of doing the Gematria, because as we're going to learn, Be'ezat Hashem, it's not so straightforward. It is straightforward, but there's more details to it, and I'll tell you from now that there's more details more than the class even. But obviously we're trying to cover one specific subject, and Be'ezat Hashem, in the upcoming days or maybe weeks or months even, hopefully it's not years, but in the upcoming time we'll provide a video, a class on the broader aspect of Gematria. Now, I want to show you first of all a few references where a person could read up about the subject on his own. First in English, what I found was very helpful was Art Scrolls Baal HaTurim on in English. So the Sefer Baal HaTurim, which we'll discuss later on in the class, he is the classic work on it on Chumash. But Art Scroll wrote a beautiful commentary in English. If you look at the introduction over there, you'll get much of the details that we're going to speak in this class. This is very recommended. Another place that's unlikely but people don't know about it, and it's very good to get, is a book by Rabbi Uri Kaplan. You can either find it in the Uri Kaplan anthology or in his book Tzitzis, which is really Tzitzit for those of us from the Middle East. Okay, Tzitzit, and in that book he has a section called Numbers, which he speaks about the concept of Gematria, which I found to be very, very helpful. These books are in English. Now, in Hebrew, what we recommend is obviously the Baal HaTurim on the Torah, like we said. And Baal HaTurim on the Torah, most of the time we'll find on the bottom of the commentary. Most Humashim will have the Baal HaTurim. It's very short and concise. Another book that I used to prepare for this class, to just give the basic concept, which is from the Encyclopedia HaTalmudit. Okay? Encyclopedia HaTalmudit is a huge encyclopedia on the concepts that we find in Hazal or in the Torah. Very important book. And on Gematria, they have a small section which was also very helpful for me. Okay? Now, how are we going to give this class before we get on to the actual class? If you're watching my video, it might be much easier than listening to the audio. And Be'ezat Hashem, you will see on the video, we'll have the letters coming up on the screen and showing exactly how the Gematrias work. But even if you're listening or watching and would like to get the best out of this class, I recommend that you take out a piece of paper and a pen. I'm waiting, go ahead. Okay, now you can just press pause if you want, and just continue afterwards. And then you can go and get your piece of paper and pen and follow along with the class. It will be very, very helpful. I will give the class as if I am speaking that we don't know anything. I say we, meaning say myself. I'm going to begin from scratch, from what they call Aleph Bet, literally. From the first steps, we're going to give it so the subject will be clear, assuming that a person doesn't know anything except for the way the letters look. And this way we hope to cover the subject clearly and give it over at the best we can. Might be recommended, if you're not so good in math, to take out a calculator as well. Baruch Hashem, for today's phones, everybody has a calculator on their phone, hopefully without internet, but you can take out your calculator as well, and that will help you tremendously in the class. It'll make things a little bit faster. If you'd like to write it out and make the mathematical equations yourself, by all please do it. Okay, and now let's begin with the actual class. Gematria. What's this word Gematria? Where does it come from? So there is a commentary on Pirkei Avot, known as the Tosafot Yom Tov. In Perek Gimel, Mishnah Yud Het, when Mishnah over there mentions Gematriot, actually, if you want to Google Pirkei Avot and press Gematria, you'll see that comes up on that Perek Gimel, Mishnah Yud Het. Over there, the Tosfot Yom Tov explains that the word Gematria is actually not a Hebrew word, rather it's a Greek word, which means Gematria. Matria very similar to the word meth. In fact, Gematria sounds very similar to, yes, you guessed it, geometry. Gematria, geometry, which is a form of math. So the original word really comes from Greek, but as the name implies, which is math, it's a mathematical way of understanding the letters of the Torah. In the Torah sources, by us, Gematria comes up in one of the 32 midot of Rabbi Eliezer beno shel Rabbi Yossi HaGalili. What am I talking about? What's one of the 32 midot? Well, if you wake up early in the morning and you're able to say the korbanot, you say over there, Bishmael Omer, Bishlosh se midot HaTorah Nedreshet. The Torah was given, the text was given to Moshe Rabbeinu, and much of the details were discussed, also were explained to Moshe Rabbeinu, but there's a lot more which we have to derive from the Torah on our own, and there are different rules of how to do it, and there's different sets of rules. One of the most common sets of rules is the 13 midot that Rabbi Ishmael brings down, which we read every morning. For example, Kal Vachomer Gezerah Shava. I'm not going to go into detail because it's not our discussion right now. And there's another set of rules brought down by Rabbi Eliezer beno shel Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, and those set of rules don't have just 13, but rather they have 32. One of those ways are Gematria. And as we're going to go along the class, you'll understand how this fits in. Now, the question is, how does this work? How does this concept work, that the Gematria works, that we have a numerical value? How come we don't see this in any other language? In English, nobody says that A equals 1, and B equals 2, and C equals 3, and so on and so forth. Why in Hebrew do we say that Aleph equals 1, and Bet equals 2, and as we can see later on, this will affect many areas in our Torah, whether it's Halakha or Derash, and how come it works? So Rabbi Kaplan explains very beautifully. He says, in English, if you want to tell me that I want 10 books, how do you write this? You could write the following: I would like, and then write 10, either with the letters T-E-N, or 10 with the number 1 and 0, books. In Hebrew, how would you say I would like 10 books? Ani rotzeh Asara Sefarim. Or you could say, Ani rotzeh Yud Sefarim. I would like 10 books, Asara. Write out the word. Or Yud. Where's the number? You wrote a letter. In Hebrew, there are no numbers. There are only letters. As opposed to every other language which has numbers and letters, in Hebrew, the numbers serve as numbers as well as letters. Now, when I write an equation, a number that serves as a I'm conveying over a message. I'm telling you a message. I write 10, 15, whatever it is. I'm telling you a message of what I would like from you. Right? It's giving over a message. Same thing in Hebrew, when we write a number, we're giving over a message. Now, the way we write the number is through the letters. Being that the Torah doesn't, and Lashon HaKodesh we know is created by God, it's created by Hashem, it's something that's not man-made, it's completely from Hashem. Being the Torah does not give any number system, or rather it keeps it through the letters. So obviously Torah is telling us something very important. Besides the words which give over a message, the numerical value of the words also give over a message. We are telling you the message. What is that message? We hope that the picture becomes clearer as we go along in the class. And now we get to the third part of this class, which is how Gematria works. And for this, if you have your paper and pen, I'm not waiting anymore. You're going to go get your paper and pen now, okay? Or press pause. If you have your paper and pen, then this is when you need to take out your paper and pen and follow along and begin writing it down. I really, really recommend writing it down because it really, really helps. So obviously you're not watching this on Shabbat where you can't have a piece of paper and pen. So just a little bit of extra effort of getting a piece of paper and pen will make it much easier for you to understand and to be able to get this concept very, very clearly. Okay? So we're going to start by first listing the Aleph bit. And again, we're starting from scratch. we're going to say the Aleph Bet in exact order. Okay? There are 22 letters in the Torah, and sometimes it's 27, which we'll discuss later on. But basically, the main letters in the Torah, there are 22 letters. Chaf Bet Otiyot La Torah. Okay? And we'll begin with the first till the end. Okay, let's begin. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Chaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pe, Tzadi, Kof, Resh, Shin, and the last and final letter is Tav. Okay? I pronounced it in the way that we Sfaradim pronounce it. And of course, as I went through the letters, I'm sure you picked up there's some letters that we have, for example, Pe, Fe, but it's all pretty much the same letters, from Aleph to Tav. Okay? Now I mentioned there are 22 letters, but sometimes 27. What do I mean 27? What I mean is that there are 5 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, which when placed in the middle or the beginning of the word, it will look in a certain way. But when placed at the end, when it comes as the final letter of the word, it will have a different shape, although the same pronunciation. And the 5 letters are known as Minafsach. Okay? Or let's put them in alphabetical order. Chaf, Mem, Nun, Pe, and Tzadi. The way the shapes of these letters will be differs if the letter is found in the end of the word or in the beginning of the word. Those 5 letters are known as Otiyot Sofiyot. Sofiyot from the word end. Okay? So therefore, if I would say Chaf, I would have to specify if it's Chaf, Peshuta, or Chaf Kefufa. That's one way of saying it. Or, which means Chaf Peshuta is the way it is at the end when it's long. Or Chaf Kefufa, which means it's bent, which is in the middle of the word. Or another way of saying it is Chaf Sofit, the Chaf at the end of the letter, of the word. Okay? Now, this is the Aleph Bet. Now we'll explain what Gematria is. Gematria is that these letters also have a numerical value. And the numerical value in our Aleph Bet numbers from 1 till 400. In fact, there is a system of counting till 900, which we'll explain also by Zat Hashem, but mainly in numbers from 1 until 400. And there are 3 categories. You can divide the Aleph Bet into 3 categories. Category number 1 will be the letters from Aleph till Yud, which will be the single digits of the letters, which we'll explain in a second. Second category will be from letters Chaf until Tzadi, which are the double digits of the Aleph Bet. And the third category is from Kof until Tav, which is the system, the category of triple digits. Okay? And let's go with the first category. From Aleph till Yod. The letters, I will first say the letter, and then the number that it equals. And this is where I recommend that you write the letter, and right next to it you write the numerical value. Okay? Don't worry, we're going in steps. We'll see where this all takes us. First, Aleph equals 1. Bet is 2. Gimel, 3. Dalet is 4. Hey equals 5. Vav equals 6. Zayin equals 7. Het is 8. Tet is 9. And finally, Yod is 10. So Aleph till Yod. Okay? Now, some say that Yod should be really in the next category, which is, you're right, that's the double digits. So then the next category begins from Yod, you could say, until Tzadi. Yod, like we explained, is 10, the double digits, the first of double digits. And in Hebrew, in order for you to say 11, we don't have it separate, but rather you'll take Yod and then you put Aleph next to it, so it'll be Yod Aleph. Okay? And if you want to say 12, you take the Yod, which is 10, and then the next letter, which is Bet, which is 2. That's Yud Bet. But then when you go to double digits, so it works like this. Okay? Yod equals 10. Chaf equals 20. Lamed equals 30. Mem equals 40. Nun equals 50. Samech equals 60. Ain equals 70. Pe equals 80. Tzadi equals 90. Those are the second category, which is the double digits from number 10 until number 90. And again, if a person would like to say a number in between those numbers from 10 till 99, let's say, so he'll pick a number 45. So he'll take the 40, which is Mem equals 40, plus the Hey, which is 5, and he'll write Mem Hey, which equals 45. Okay? And now the third and final, not the final category, but final category for our sake, which is the triple digits. And like we said, it's limited, in the main, it's limited to these 4 numbers. And they are Kof, Resh, Shin, Taf. Kof is 100. Resh equals 200. Shin equals 300. And Tav equals 400. Okay? So again, Kof 100, Resh is 200, Shin is 300, and Tav is 400. Now that you wrote all this down, so let's say a person would like to say the number 385. So you would write Shin, which is 300, Pe, which is 80, and Hey, which will be 5, altogether equal 385. That's how you'd write it in Hebrew. Again, there are no numbers. You have to write it in letters. But that's how you'd write that you need 385. Okay? Now, I'm sure you're already picking up that you could already combine different letters and get different numbers, which is exactly precisely what Gematria is all about. Now, the category, the fourth and I guess hidden category that I haven't spoke about, or I mentioned only, which is the Minafsach. What is the Minafsach? So, you should know Minatzafach, that the Minafsach, which is the letters, the Otiyot Sofiyot, they number 5. And like we said, in order they are Chaf, Mem, Nun, Pe, and Tzadi. These are the 5. So there are, the Mikubalim, the Kabbalists, order them in a different way, and like we said, they are Minatzfach, and they have their reason why they number them that way. For our sake, it will make a difference of how you'd count, because according to another form of Gematria, when you have these letters which come at the end of the word, sometimes they would work to fill in the gap, which is for the 5 missing hundreds. Meaning, we explained that in the triple digits we have the letters Kof till Tav equaling 100 till 400. So we're missing from 500 until 900. Those 5 are what these Minatzfach come in to fill. So one system of writing it would be like this. Again, the Chaf Sofit would equal 500. The Mem Sofit would equal 600. The Nun Sofit would equal 700. The Pe Sofit would equal 800. And the Tzadi Sofit would equal 900. That's one way of writing it. And then, like I said, according to the Kabbalists, they have a different order, and that is Mem equals 500, Nun is 600, Tzadi is 700, Pe is 800, and then Chaf will be 900. That's according to the Kabbalists. And either way, it is not so common that you see people using these Otiyot Sofiyot to write numbers. For example, if a person wants to write the number 800, where some would write the Pe Sofit, Many people will just write a double tav. Tav, tav. 844. So they write tav, tav, mem, dalet. Instead of pe sofit, mem, dalet. That's just the most common way. However, in figuring out the mathematical equation, which we call Gematria, figuring out the Gematria of a word, people may use the Menafsach system to, find different derashot on a specific word. Okay? Now that we got the rules, we got the letters, and we got what the numbers equal, we're going to give you a few examples, and we'll see 3 different examples and just how to calculate a word. Let's start with a simple word, Moshe. Moshe is written Mem, Shin, He. So if you want to write it down, write Mem, Shin, He. So over here on the camera, I actually have to start from here. Mem, Shin, He. Okay? So, what is the numerical value of Moshe? So I tell you right away, 345. I did my homework. What do you think? I didn't prepare for class? Of course I prepared. But how do you figure it out? The way I like to do it, the easiest way is go one letter at a time and write down the number next to it. Mem, I write down next to it 40. Shin equals, look on the chart, 300. And Hey, if you look on the chart, equals 5. So you do the math, equals 345. Okay? That's why you need the calculator. Okay. And you should know, in the beginning it might be difficult, you might have to use a calculator, write it down. Eventually you pick it up, it becomes much, much easier. Next, take the word like Torah. Okay? Torah, now you have a combination of letters, which is not straightforward. It's not 3 numbers and 3, sets. Torah, what's the numerical value? So let's do what we did. Torah is spelled Tav, Vav, Resh, Hey. Tav equals 400, Vav equals 6, Resh equals 200, and Hey equals 5. Altogether, it comes out to 611. Okay? When you add them all up. Next, let's take a word like Ayrubin. Just throw that out, Ayrubin. Why did I choose that word? It happens to me when I was preparing the class. The Masechet Ayrubin was right next to me. Okay, but it makes no difference. Let's see, how do you do in the mathematical equation of Ayrubin? Let's start. Ayrubin, first get the word straight, get the word correct. Ayin, Yud, Resh, Vav, Bet, Yud, Nun. Now this Nun is a Nun Sofit. So therefore, Ayin would equal 70, 10 would equal, Yud will equal 10, Resh equals 200, Vav equals 6, Bet equals 2, Yud equals 10, and Nun equals 50 simply. Okay, that would equal 348. However, if Nun Sofit, according to, let's do the simple way, not the Kabbalistic way, of Nun Sofit will equal, let's see, 600. Okay, so then you'd have to subtract 50 from the calculation over here, which you would get 298. Okay, and then add on top of it, what do we say? How much was Nun Sofit? 600, which makes it 898. Okay, this is a way of doing the Gematria, 2 ways of doing Gematria, but more commonly people will tell you that Ayrubin is a Gematria of 348, because like I said, it's not so common that people use the Otiyot Sofiyot for numbers, although it is possible that it is brought down, so it's not, a person is not so far off. Okay? So again, it's much easier if you write this on paper. If you're just listening to this class without following on paper, if you're watching, at least you have it a little easier, you see the numbers on the screen. Thank you very much to our editor, Mr. Gabe Hefetz. So you would have it a little bit easier. But again, you get used to it as you go along. Now that we learned the letters, we learned the number value of each letter, let's speak a little bit of how it applies. Okay? So I found that there's 3 areas in which we see this is applicable. Number 1 is in halakha, believe it or not. Yes, in halakha. I'll give you 2 examples where we find that Gematria makes a difference in halakha. And if you remember, we said that this is one of the 32 midot. If there's one of the 32 midot that we mentioned, which means that's the way you understand the Torah, it means the way that we could derive halakha from here. I'll give an example. We all know the concept, or we may not know. Again, I'm speaking from scratch. There's a concept called Nazir in the Torah. Torah speaks in Parashat Naso about a person who makes a vow and he wants to abstain. He doesn't want to take any pleasure from the things that could pull you into the materialism of this world, and therefore he takes a vow upon himself to refrain himself from wine, grapes, anything that has to do with wine, and he lets his hair grow. So now, this is a vow. How long is this effective on him? How long does he have to abstain from wine for? So if he specifies a year, then it's a year. If he specifies 2 and 3, whatever. But let's say a person doesn't specify. What is the minimum amount of days that a person must accept upon himself to be a Nazir if he doesn't specify the time? So the Gemara says, the Halakha says that the minimum amount of days is 30. Where is the source of this law? Gemara says because the Torah speaks of the Nazir and says the following: Kadosh Yihiyeh, he shall be holy. The Gemara says the word Yihiyeh, if you do the mathematical equation, what's the Gematria of Yihiyeh? Yud is 10, He is 5, Yud is another 10, He is another 5, 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5 equals 30. This is where we know that a Nazir has to be at least for 30 days. A Nazir has to accept the vow for at least 30 days. So you see an example over here from the Gemara where Gematria plays a role in determining the halakha. Another example is what we know as the 39 melachot. We all know, or we don't know again, right? Okay, the Torah tells us, and the Mishnah in Masechet Shabbat tells us that there are 39 melachot on Shabbat that one must abstain from. He cannot do 39 melachot on Shabbat. And the Gemara says, where do we know that's 39? The Gemara says, well, you look in Parashat Vayakhel. Moshe gathers all the Jewish people and he says, Elle haddebarim, Hashem. These are the things that Hashem commanded. Says the Gemara, he could have simply says, Ze haddabar. It's just a weird word. Elle haddebarim. So, debarim, you already know that's referring to plural. It's many things, a few things. Minimum of something plural is 2. Dabar is 1 singular, debarim is 2. Why did it say haddebarim? It could have said debarim. So the hey implies another, obviously another commandment, another subject that we're speaking about. So there's already, we have a source for 3 melachot. And what about the other 36? We know from haddebarim 3 melachot. What do you know that another 36 a person should abstain himself from? Says the Gemara from the word elle. What is the Gematria of elle? Elle, Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, and Hey is 5. 1 plus 30 is 31 plus 5 is 36. These are 36 plus the 3 from haddebarim. We get a total of 39. This is, believe it or not, this is the source of knowing, or this is where we have 39 melachot, which we are not allowed to do on Shabbat. Now, how does that exactly work out? B'ezrat Hashem, you'll go and watch the other video that we have on the subject of melachot of Shabbat, and over there we explain clearly how do we get the 39 and what these 39 are. But you see again that Gematria here again plays a role in determining the halakha. Elle haddebarim, Elle is the Gematria of 36, which is the 36 out of the 39 melachot of Shabbat. Okay? Another area that we find Gematria, and this is the more known area, which is through derash. In order to explain this, I have to give a little bit of an introduction. Okay? And you can write this on your paper and pen as well. If it comes up, hopefully it will come up on the screen with the right press of a button. Okay. Pardes. Pe, Resh, Dalet, Samech. Pardes literally means a garden. Don't do the Gematria, don't worry. Okay? Pardes also has another meaning. The Torah can be learned on 4 different levels, 4 different ways of understanding. And they are Pardes, Rashi Tevot Pardes. Pe stands for Peshat, which means a simple understanding of the words. For example, Elle haddebarim. These are the words. Right, the simple understanding. These are the words which we're going to explain about, what we're going to talk about. Then you have Resh, which is Remez, which is known in English as illusion, which we're going to concentrate on in a second, so I'm not going to bother to speak about it now. Dalet is Drash. Drash literally means to seek. And that is to learn the Torah in seeing how each word, is extra or not extra, or why does it say this way, why is the Torah writing in a specific subject, in a specific manner, that is called derash. And then finally the samech, which is sod, which means secret. And that refers to the Kabbalah, what people know as a Kabbalah. Like for example, books like the Zohar or the Arizal. Those books speak about the secrets. These are things that were, the Torah, again, if you read the Kabbalistic works on the way they explain the Torah, you'll see that it's sometimes very deep and it's not really speaking on the simple meaning of the Pasuk, but that is really the sod. Now, all this is a beautiful garden of all the different parts of the Torah. Torah can be on so many different levels. Okay, so now we skipped remez on purpose because we want to discuss what remez is. Remez, like we said, is an illusion. What does it mean, remez? It means the Torah alludes through certain words and certain concepts, something that it wants to speak about. One of the areas of remez is Gematria. We'll give you an example. We mentioned before that the primary book on the subject of remez on the Torah is the book called Baal HaTurim, a book written in the 1300s by a rabbi named as Rabbi Yaakov ben Asher. His father is Rabbeinu Asher, who is in almost every single Gemara in the back, known as the Rosh. Rabbi Yaakov Baal HaTurim is also known for his book on halakha called Tur, right? Which is usually accompanied by the Beit Yosef. So the Baal HaTurim wrote a commentary on the Torah, like we showed you before in the Humash. He wrote it in what's it called? In the style of remez. Give you two examples. The Torah tells us regarding the story of Esav, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, where Yitzhak asks of his oldest son Esav to go and trap for him an animal. It says that Esav went to trap an animal. It says, Vayelech Esav hasadeh. Esav went to the field, latzud side lahabi, to trap a trap to bring it to his father. That's what it says in the Torah. Now the Hachamim tell us in the Midrash that really he was planning that if he doesn't get the animal, he's going to go rob an animal. So comes about Turim, he says, if you look at the word latzud and you do the Gematria of the word latzud, so again, Lamed, Tzadi, Vav, Dalet. Lamed is 30, Tzadi is 90, Vav is 6, and Dalet is 4. It equals the same Gematria as the word Min Gezel. Mem, Nun, and then Gimel, Zayin, Lamed, which means from stealing. In the word latzud, you see already alludes, that's the remez, it's meramez, it's alluding to what the Hachamim tell us what Esav was planning to do, he was going to steal. How do Hachamim know that? And the answer is they understood it through the remez of the Torah, how the Torah hinted it through the word latzud. I'll give you another example which we had recently in Parashat Balak. And one of the things that Balaam says about the Jewish people, he says the following: Hen'am lebadad yishkon. It is a nation that lives alone. Okay? Now, what do you mean lives alone? Most Jewish people are scattered throughout the world. They're all living amongst the Goyim. Right? And the Gemara tells us, and the Hamim tell us that, and the Zohar especially, that Balaam really had the power to see till the end of days, into the days of Mashiach. And therefore his prophecies, although they were said then, at the time that he was living in it, he was also alluding, he was hinting to what's going to be also in the future. Says Baal HaTurim again, he says if you take the word lebadad yishkon, who lives alone, let's write it, lamed bet daled daled lebadad, yishkon is yud shin chaf nun, it equals the same gematria as bimeh Mashiach, in the days of Mashiach. So here is already the name is. Although now we're in Galut, we're in exile, they want to call it the diaspora, whatever you want to say. You can look it up on your thesaurus. Anyway, although now we're in Galut and we're amongst the Goyim, we're not alone, there will be the time when it will be Hina'al Lebedad Yishkon, when will be that nation will be alone. One nation under God. Now that's okay. Anyway, that was just for fun. Okay, the third area that you see Gematria being used, and this I find it, again, I'm sure there's areas, but most common that you see is people who like to do it for fun. Okay? Yeah, maybe someone will get up in a share bracha, in a wedding, and we'll say the name of the Hatan and the Kala, and give the numerical value of the Hatan plus the Kala, and bring. I'll tell you a funny story. One time, there was a girl who dated for quite a number of years. She dated for a while, and finally, Baruch Hashem, she finally met her shidduch, she met her date. And the brother got up in the share brachot and he wanted to speak, and as a joke, he started, so everybody knows when you do Gematria, it's going to be something interesting, you know. So he started doing the Gematria of the girl. He said, you know, my sister-in-law's name is whatever it is, you know, is Hannah, which equals this number. Plus her maiden name, her maiden name is this, so add that onto the mathematical equation. And plus her new last name is this, put that on. Her mother's name is this, so she's Bat, whatever, put that on. And if you add also the address of the house, okay, he came with a big number. So and everybody's waiting in anticipation. What is he going to say? And finally he said, and what does this all equal up to? He says, that's exactly this big number, that's exactly the amount of guys my sister-in-law dated till she finally got married. Okay? Got everybody laughing. So that's people use Gematria for fun. Okay? Now, before I talk about this point, I just want to tell you something very important. The Baal HaTurim, in his introduction on his commentary in the Torah, he writes a very important point. He says, now people, you know, I guess this is an old practice, that people, you know, make fun of Gematriot because people come up with a number and they say whatever they want. He says, you know, I wrote a commentary on the Torah and I wrote a book in Halakha which has been accepted almost by everybody. The Torah on Halakha, everybody knows about the Torah on Halakha. He says, I called my book on the Torah, which deals with Gematriot and the remez of the Torah, the same name as Halakha, to show you how important it is. That it's not something to be taken as a joke. It's actually something very serious. Okay? Now, this is the reality of Gematria. However, this doesn't mean that every time you hear Gematria, it means that what the person is trying to tell you, or the message the person is trying to tell you. You know, most people will say, oh, the Gematria of this word equals this value, and then they'll come up with a different message or whatever. Who said that that's what it means? Who said that if you find the Gematria of the Hatan equaling the Gematria of the father-in-law, it means that they'll get along? I don't know, hopefully they would. But the numbers, yes, definitely, if they have the same number, for sure it means there's some sort of connection. But who says it's the message that you're saying? Now, it could be yes, it could be not, but I'm just showing you that the Gematria, if you see it coming from a source, a holy source, from one of the rabbis writes a Gematria, of course, take it and try to understand it. It has a lot of depth to it. If people are just using it for fun, it could be the hit, it could be the miss, it could be they're saying something really good, it's just they're not interpreting it properly. But certainly there's a lot of truth in the Gematria if one who understands how to get the message from these Gematriot, and then you'll see some beautiful, beautiful ideas and concepts. Okay. Pretty much we're done speaking about the Gematriot. And there's one more section though, there's one more part to this class which I have to put in, and that is that although we spoke about the basic system of how to get a Gematria, like we said by Moshe, Mem equals 40 and Shin is 300 and He is 5 is 345, there's other ways of doing Gematria, and you might have come across it, you might have heard it in the past, even if not, you'll learn it now. One is the simple way, like we explained, the regular way, Gematria. Another time is we find Gematria where you'd have the numerical value of the word, but then all of a sudden there's an extra number, there's an extra number on it, there's an extra one, and that is called the kolel, which means that you take into calculation the word that you're trying to get the Gematria of. For example, Moshe, which equals 345, if you do it with the kolel, it would become 346. The Bnei Yisachar, which is a book known throughout the Hasidic world and even the non-Hasidic world, it's an unbelievable book of Mahshava. So he brings over there a beautiful hint to why the Kabbalists use the kolel part of the Gematria. It says we find in the blessings that Yaakov gave to Yosef, and he tells Yosef that your two children, Ephraim and Menashe, will not just be like my grandchildren, they'll be like my children, which means they'll become Shebatim themselves, they'll become tribes themselves. And he uses the following words. He says in the Pasuk, Ephraim Menashe Kir'uben v'Shimon Yuli. Ephraim and Menashe will be like Reuben and Shimon. The simple meaning of this Pasuk, the pshat of this Pasuk is that just like Reuben and Shimon are Shebatim, Ephraim and Menashe will also be a tribe on their own, a Shevet on its own, which we see throughout the Midbar. There was Shevet Ephraim and Shevet Menashe, and just like there was Shevet Reuben and Shevet Shimon. The Bnei Yisachar says, look at the Gematria. If you do Ephraim Menashe, comes out to the Gematria of 732. And if you do Reuben and Shimon, it comes out the Gematria of 731. But he said Ephraim Menashe, Reuben and Shimon Yuli. They'll be exactly identical. So on the Pshat, we explained it. On the Remez, in the level of Remez, it means that with the Kolel, Reuben and Shimon with the Kolel will be equal to Ephraim and Menashe. That is Gematria with the Kolel. Another way we find is you could add the letters of the word, which means, let's say again the word Moshe. Moshe is 345. I hope you know that by now. If you add the letters to that, so it'll be 348, because there are 3 letters in the word Moshe, Mem, Shin, He. Okay? A source for this, we find an example. I don't want to say a source because really there's many examples. An example to this is Rabbeinu Behaya's commentary, or maybe it's about Tunim, I forget right now exactly, but you look it up. In Parashat Pikudei, it begins the following words: Elle Pikudei HaMishkan, Mishkan Ha'idut. This is where Moshe Rabbeinu, after he set up the whole Mishkan, he wrote an accounting of all the items in the Mishkan. He writes, these are the accountings of the Mishkan Ha'idut. So now the Mishkan means the sanctuary, the whatever they want to call it, right? That's where Hashem dwelled at the time, which later on became the Beit HaMikdash. So he says the Rabbeinu Behaye that HaMishkan, if you do HaMishkan He, Mim, Mem, Shin, Chaf, Nun, He equals 5, Shin equals 300, Mem equals 40, Chaf equals 20, and Nun equals 50, equals 415. Plus the 5 letters equals 420. What's 420? 420 are the years that the second Beit HaMikdash stood. 420 years. And the other word, Mishkan, regular without the He, is 410, which is without the letters, meaning to say just the Gematria of the Mishkan, just the word Mishkan, equals 410, which alludes to the 410 years that the first Beit HaMikdash stood. So here Moshe, the Torah is telling us in the beginning, when Moshe is bringing the accounting of the Mishkan, which was the model for the future Beit HaMikdash, already in the first Pasuk, already we see the remes to the 2 Batei Mikdashim that are going to come later on. Mishkan, which is 410, the 410 years with the first Beit HaMikdash stood, and HaMishkan with the letters equals 420, which is the years that the second Beit HaMikdash stood for. 410, 420. And finally, it's not finally, again, there's much more, but for our sake, finally, there's something called Mispar Katan. When you do Gematria, there's something called Mispar Katan. What is Mispar Katan? Mispar Katan, basically, you just drop the zeros. Anytime there's a 0, you just drop it. Or you add it till you get a single digit. For example, the letter Aleph, we know, equals 1. Yod equals 10, Kof equals 100. In Mispar Katan, Aleph, Yod, and Kof all equal the same. Because if you drop the zeros from the 10, it will be 1. If you drop the zeros from the 100, it will be 1. Okay? So, I'll give you a nice remez I once heard. It's a beautiful concept. On Shabbat, which is the 7th day of the week, the main foods that the Jewish people have been eating on Shabbat, if you do the Mispar Katan, the Gematria and Mispar Katan, which means you add everything till you get to a single digit, you always see that equals 7. Let's start. You make a dush on wine. Wine in Hebrew is yain. Yain, yod, nun. 10 plus 10 plus 50 equals 70. Drop the 0, equals 7. Then you have, after wine, usually have Hala. Hala is Het, Lamed He. Het is 8, Lamed is 30, and 5. That equals 43. 4 plus 3 equals 7. Then most people have Basar, unless they have some logic reaction or whatever. Okay? Basar, it's Bet, Sin, Resh. Sin is Shin, really. Bet is 2. Sin, Shin is 300, and Resh is 200. That equals 502, which equals 5 plus 0 plus 2 equals 7. And by the way, it works also with glida and yabrak, whatever, not the time for it, but you'll see it works pretty much with the main foods that we eat on Shabbat, even ores, whatever. You'll see that equals the number 7. Okay? So this is known as mispar katan, doing the gematria of a word in mispar katan, which you have to get to. Basically, mispar katan means you're going to get to a single digit. You add everything till you get to a single digit. If it's zeros, you drop the 0. And if it's not, you just add everything till you get to the smallest letter. Good? So, pretty much we finished the class. I want to end with one final thought. What do you learn from this gematria? What's one lesson you can learn from this gematria? What I learned from this gematria is there's a Gemara which says, Kudsha berichu ve'Yisrael ve'oraita hadhu. Gemara tells us something very interesting. Hashem, the Jewish people, and the Torah are all considered one. What does that mean on a simple level? It means they're all unified through the Torah. By the Jewish people learning the Torah, they get a connection with Hashem. But I'm sure there are many, many more explanations. We could also understand from here that what you see true in one will be true in the others. From Gematria, we learn how deep the Torah is. Well, we thought we understood the story, or at least part of the story of the Torah, and we're still trying to understand. Through Gematria, we've realized how deep the Torah is. How everything has a number value and it equals something else, and it's so deep and it's so rich. It is the same thing with every Jew, because every Jew also has a number. Every Jew's name in Hebrew, we have a Hebrew name. By the Brit Milah, we don't have just Joey, it's Yosef. It's not Michael, it's Michael. It's not, I don't know what else. Everybody has his name. Abi, it's Abraham. And that also has a numerical value. And each person's numerical value is endless. When you do the Gematria, and there's Gematria of Milui, it's endless. The depth of each Jew, and then that's really the truth. Each Jew, there's so much to him, more than what you just see on the surface, that you see Abraham. Abraham is really 248. 248 what? When you look deeper, it's more than that. It's deeper. There's 240 parts to him. And you look deeper and you see much more than what you see on the surface of Abraham. And that tells us about the creator of it all, which is Kudsha berichu, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kudsha berichu, Hashem, who created this whole system. Look at the depth. It's endless. As much as you learn, it's endless. And that's what you got to remember. Kudsha berichu, v'sa'eh v'oraita hadhu.